Hello, everybody. Welcome to Microsoft Ignite Ask the Expert on Microsoft Certifications. My name is Karina Ung, and I will be your host for this session. We're super excited to have you all here. This is a live session intended to be an interactive experience for you to ask your questions related to Microsoft certifications with our panel of experts. Before we dive in, I want to talk real quick about how to engage some tips and tricks. Be sure to use the Q&A box to ask your questions. This is an interactive session after all. Questions will appear once they're approved. If you do see a question that you like, be sure to upvote your favorite question using the thumbs up feature, and select questions will be answered verbally on screen. As many as we can, we'll try to cover with the time that we have. This is a 30-minute session, and this session will also be recorded. If we don't get to your question on screen, we do have a panel of experts behind the screen as well to help answer as many questions as possible through the chat as well. So be sure to submit your questions through the Q&A feature. Be sure to also adhere to our Microsoft Code of Conduct. I will not read through this, but it will be pasted in the chat for you to review. Be sure to just follow that as well as we're part of this Microsoft Ignite digital event. With that being said, I do want to introduce our panel of experts. We've got Sudarshan Krishnamurthy on here and then Liberty Munson as well. Sudarshan, do you want to introduce yourself first and what you do here at Microsoft, and then turn it over to Liberty right after?
Absolutely. Thanks, Karina. And hello, everyone. It's great to be here. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I know it's a global audience. Thanks for having me. And as Karina said, I'm the Director of Product Management for Microsoft Certifications. And in my role, I'm responsible for the product experience for Microsoft Certifications. So some of the initial work that I did and the work that as a team we did for certification renewal, that all falls under my remit to make sure the experience is really frictionless, is smooth, and you have the best experience for certifications of Microsoft products in general. So that's my role, and I'll now turn it over to Liberty Munson, who will introduce herself as well.
Hello, everybody. I am so glad to have this opportunity to have this conversation with you all again this time. I am the Director of Psychometrics, which is really just a fancy way of saying I'm responsible for ensuring that whatever tool or process we use to evaluate skills is valid and reliable, so that when you earn a Microsoft certification, it actually means something. So that goes all the way from the way we design, develop, deliver, administer, and maintain our certifications to how exactly are we going to measure your skills to make sure you are qualified. So with that, let us look into the crystal ball of the questions and get us started.
Awesome. Thank you for the intro. Before we get into questions really quick, I just want to highlight some of the Microsoft certifications announcements that we have made most recently. There are 2 new certifications, the Microsoft 365 Certified Teams Voice Engineer, and then we've got an Azure Network Engineer also available. We've also got 3 coming very soon, the Microsoft Azure Cosmos DB Developer Specialty Certification. We've got one on Windows Server Hybrid Administrator certification, and then another one for Customer Data Platform. And then we've got one that exists today, but it will be redesigned and updated pretty soon here, the Microsoft Certified Azure Solutions Architect certification. There will be new requirements with a new beta exam available in November later this month. So for more information, be sure to check out the blog here at aka.ms/learn@ignite_nov2021. All right. With all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into some of our questions here. I want to really just start first, though, we think about certifications. What is the real value of certifications? Right? What is the impact certifications have on those who have a technical professional career? And then also for organizations, how do certifications actually impact organizations? I'm going to throw this question over to you, Liberty, if you can help address this question.
Sure, this is one of my favorite questions because the value of certification is really important, because not only is it needs to be valuable for the individual who's earning it, but also needs to be valuable for the organization for which that individual is going to work. So how come it's valuable for individuals? It really helps. What we've seen in the research studies that we have done is that the people who have certifications, it has increased their confidence. They get higher respect from their peers. They have higher job satisfaction. They have greater work autonomy and independence. In addition, they are more likely to be invited to have a seat at the table. They're more efficient at solving problems, and they're more effective in their jobs. So not only do you have that feeling of confidence, it's well-deserved because you actually are better at the work that you do when you get certified. I think the part of the conversation that sometimes people forget is that certifications are actually valuable to organizations too. So a certification is essentially a guarantee that you have these skills that you need to be successful in a job role. And so that really benefits organizations because they can trust you to come into their organization and leverage the Microsoft platform in ways that can more effectively and efficiently solve the problems and challenges that they face. In fact, you can be critical in helping them on their digital transformation journeys. So remember when you're thinking about the value of certification that it is valuable to you as an individual because it really showcases that you have the skills to be successful. It'll help you find jobs, it will help you get promoted, but organizations really value them too because they know the employees that they hire will have the skills that they need to help them be successful in their businesses.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Liberty. So as I think maybe many of the folks here may know, we have shifted over from product-focused certifications to really investing in role-based certifications. We actually have a question here from one of our attendees. Will we ever actually well, actually, hold on, let me move back here. So what is your advice, and I'm going to throw this over to you, Sudarshan, what is your advice for those who are applying for jobs where the description actually asks for one of our older certifications like the MCSE that are more product focused rather than our newer role-based certifications?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we have gone through a transition, right? As an industry, we are going through many transitions in the skilling space. And one of the transitions is where they were asked for specific features, knowledge on products before, and now it's all about role-based certifications where employers and folks are looking for knowledge across the solution area rather than just specific products. So if you are applying to jobs where MCSE is a requirement, one of the things that we need to do as Microsoft is educate the employers that we have transitioned, the industry has transitioned from product-based to role-based certifications, and therefore the job descriptions themselves should have role-based certifications. But if some of the jobs have older certifications like the MCSE, one of the things that you can do is to educate the prospective employer that your skills, which is now role-based certification skills, is actually more valuable than product-based skills, because product-based skills was very specifically focused on specific features, right? If you're a security engineer, you might be an expert in firewalls or you might be an expert in web protection, but that's very, very specific to that product. Whereas the demand for jobs and skills today for a security engineer is more around the actual features for multiple products across the solution, right? So if you're a security engineer, you should know a little bit of endpoint protection, you should know web protection, you should also know how the security analyst role will be in case of a SOC, right? So those are all the important skills that are required across the entire solution and not specific to a product. So if you can educate your employer about how your skills are actually more valuable than the product-based search, which used to be very focused on specific features within the product. So that's a little bit of education that you need to do while we continue to educate the industry and the market around the value of role-based certifications as we make this transition.
Thanks, Sudarshan. I think there's a follow-up question I actually want to ask that's related to really why, again, we're investing so much in role-based certifications and how quickly products change, right? There's a question around our certifications. So every other Microsoft certifications, they expire, they become less valid as so many changes in products happen over the years. So why would someone actually feel confident in the latest certifications? And I'm going to keep throwing this back to you, Sudarshan, as it's related to really that shift in product to really role-based certifications.
So yeah, I think as we know, right, in this hybrid cloud world that we are all living in, there's a lot of changes that are happening, right, in terms of the technology itself. These technology shifts are also impacting skills. And our goal is to make sure that the skills that we are validating and also training people on are actually the latest skills that are really well aligned with the in-demand jobs. So we are in constant research mode where we go out and look for all of the in-demand jobs that are out there and the skills that are relevant to do those jobs, right? So it's when you actually get certified and trained on Microsoft certifications, you are actually having those latest and greatest skills to do the jobs that are in most demand. So while the change itself is a lot, I understand, and we can really empathize with all the changes that we are making. But the change is so valuable because it's really relevant to the in-demand jobs, and it's really relevant to the skills that are required to be really productive in those jobs. So it's sort of a balance that we try to make sure that we can create, that we're not making too many changes, but at the same time, we don't want to be outdated as well in terms of the certification and the learning content. So that's kind of why we make these changes, and it's all obviously based on from the demand side of the equation. That's where we look at it, like what are those jobs and what are the skills relevant to do those jobs, right? So that's what's driving all these changes, and I hope you find it valuable, right? That you're making these changes, and we're not doing it, too frequently, but at the same time, we are not like I said, outdated in terms of the skills that we test.
Karina, can I jump in here? Because I actually
Sure.
had a different interpretation of the question. And so maybe Sudarshan answered it, but maybe I get an opportunity to talk a little bit about how we're actually keeping our certifications up to date. So I think what you've probably noticed with this new role-based program is that we do actually have expiration dates. In the past, we didn't. We let kind of organizations and their use of the technologies take the place of expiration dates, right? So we had products that had version numbers or years of release, so Windows Server 2008, 2012, 2016. And so that was kind of how people kept their skills up to date. But with the new program, your certifications expire after a year. And so what we have done is we have ensured that you have an opportunity to go in and continually renew your skills in a way that reflects and adapts to the speed with which the technology is changing. And we've made it a simple process through Microsoft Learn and our cert renewal process, which if you have questions about them, put them in chat and Sudarshan can give you a lot more information. But I also want to point out that because technology is changing so fast, we are actually updating our certification exams every 2 months. So we are not letting them get out of date. They're staying relevant. They're staying valid. They're staying very much a critical part of somebody's experience in demonstrating their skills. So I know in the past that there has been some skepticism about our ability to keep our exams up to date, but we have implemented a sustained engineering program where we are looking at our exams every 2 months and updating content where it's needed. And in fact, reimagining them and making sure we're really hitting the mark with the job role and what we're assessing in the exam and our training at least once a year. So if your question was really more along the lines of even if I earn the certification, it's going to get out of date. Well, we're giving you a way to keep your skills up to date through cert renewal, and we are keeping our exams up to date, so they're always valid and reliable measures of your skills, regardless of how fast the technology is changing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that addition, Liberty. Speaking of certification expiration, we actually have a question related to expiring certifications. So our role-based specialty certifications are now valid for 1 year. They do expire after a year. This has been a recent shift. So the questions are, what does one do after their certifications expire? And then do they need to pay or retake an exam, or what should they do proactively before it expires even? Sudarshan, question for you.
Yeah, so you can definitely take proactive action to make sure your certification does not expire. The validity period is 1 year. So before that 1 year expiration, you can actually go to, like Liberty was mentioning, you can go to Microsoft Learn and you will have access to learning modules and content that you can review for the delta of the changes that have happened since you last took the exam and passed the exam to earn a certification. And once you are comfortable with that learning content, or if you're already familiar with the learning content, then you can just go take a quick assessment. It's a 25-question assessment on Microsoft Learn. And once you pass that, your certification will be extended by another year. So we've made the process really simple. It's online. You can do it at your own pace. You don't have to pay for it. So all of the good things that were sort of friction points before, we have taken care of it and made sure that it's frictionless. And once you complete that, your certification will get extended. Now, in the case that you're not able to complete the renewal assessment for whatever reason within that expiration period before the certification expires, then you will have to go back and re-earn the certification. Certification will expire if you don't complete the renewal, and you have to go take the exam, pay the amount, whatever you had paid, the amount that's required to be paid for the exams, and then you have to re-earn the certification all over again. So what I would highly encourage all of you to do is make sure before your renewal, before your expiration, you go and take that renewal assessment, pass the assessment, It's really quick. You have learning content available. We have made it really simple for you. So please don't miss the opportunity to complete your renewals before the expiration. Otherwise, you have to sort of re-earn it all over again.
Excellent. And just a reminder too, for those who are looking to renew your certification, that window for renewal opens up within 6 months of your certification expiring. So between 6 months to expiration, be sure to check out your certification dashboard, see which ones you're eligible to renew, and you can actually do that for free through Microsoft Learn, as Sudarshan mentioned. I've got a question for you, Liberty. So, I talked about announcements, right? We've got the Windows Server Hybrid certification. This question comes and comes again. Somebody said they missed the chance to earn their MCSA certification, one of our older certifications. They've been laid off by their employers. They're looking for candidates. So it kind of feels like a catch-22 for them. So will there ever be a Windows Server certification again?
I am so glad I get to talk about this because this has been a question we've gotten for so long. Yes, we just announced our Windows Server Hybrid Administrator Associate certification. So this is really a reflection of the fact that we recognize that this is a job role that is really important in the industry, and we want to make sure that our learners and organizations have an opportunity our learners get certified and organizations have an opportunity to hire people who have those certifications so they can demonstrate that they are qualified in the Windows Server Hybrid solutions. So there's 2 exams in this certification. We tried really hard to figure out how to make it into a single exam, but this is a big space. There's a lot of stuff that goes into being a qualified Windows Server Hybrid Administrator, and so it is 2 exams. Those exams will go to beta at the beginning of December. So watch our blog. And you will be able to take those beta exams at a discounted price. It's 80% off of the price. Using a code that will appear in the blog. In lieu of that, if you're part of our SME database, you will also get, and you have indicated that you're a Windows Server person as one of your skills, you will get an email from our SME database inviting you to participate in the beta, and there's a separate code for that. So it's limited, first come, first serve for these beta seats at these discounted prices. But certainly you can also, if you want to pay the full price, you can also take it. You don't have to take it with the beta code. It's just the benefit is that you get the discount with the beta code. Now the cost, I guess, for getting that benefit is that you do have to wait for your score until the exam goes live, because you're giving me the data I need to understand which questions are working right, which ones have issues, which ones we need to fix, which ones we need to remove. And so this is how we collect all that data to make sure that the exam is a great one. When it goes live, which will probably be sometime in February, would be my guess.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Liberty. Yeah, that's a great question. Great answer for that one. We have another question around taking trial exams, and I'm assuming when we say trial exams, we're talking about practice exams. So are there any resources to help someone prepare with taking a certification exam, and are they freely available? Sudarshan, I'm going to hand that one over to you.
Yeah, first of all, there's great learning content available on Microsoft Learn for many of our certifications. I would say most of our certifications. You can go to the certification page for the certification that you're interested in, and there are different ways to prepare. And one of the ways to prepare would be your Microsoft Learn micro-learning modules. So that's a great way to actually prepare for Microsoft certifications. Now, in addition to that, if you want to do practice tests, we do have practice tests available through a third party. Microsoft actually does not directly sell those, but it's available through MeasureUp, who's our partner, and you can take those practice tests before you actually take the exam. So there's different modes within the practice test. You can do a practice mode, or you can where you actually go through the entire exam experience, or you can also do another mode where you can get feedback on the questions that you answered, and that'll give you more guidance on how to approach those questions. So there are different modes available, and you can try those practice tests before you actually take the exam. So that's what I would recommend. First, go to Learn, make sure you've had the opportunity to review all the learning content that's available there. And if you're the sort of learner who likes to prepare using self-paced micro-learning nuggets, that's probably the best way for you. And at the end of every learning module, there's also some checks, like end of module sort of assessment that you can go through, simple questions that you can answer and see whether you've ready. And then in addition to that, you can take the practice test that I mentioned from MeasureUp.
Yeah, and I just want to also add, in addition to Microsoft Learn, you can also discover instructor-led training courses if you're looking for ways to prepare. They are offered by our trusted Microsoft Learning partners. If you prefer, instructor-led training, that can also help prepare you for certifications. I have another question. This is actually for you, Liberty. Let's see here. What are your plans for lab-based certification exams? Not multiple choice scenario questions, but actual hands-on exams of operational knowledge. Any insight there that you can share with this group, Liberty?
Yes, we actually have, some of our exams actually have labs on them today. I think we have 4 or 5 of them that have labs today. Our goal is to get labs into all of our certifications. They may not be on all of our exams because there are some certifications that have multiple exams, but all of our certifications would have a hands-on element. We're really working on bringing those back. We had them prior to COVID and the big lockdowns, which made most people take exams from home, and the lab delivery is not great in some locations when you have to take an exam at home. So just to make sure that we weren't stressing the bandwidth of some of our test takers and creating a bad experience, we took them offline until we were able to make sure that we could deliver them when we were very confident that the experience was going to be a good one. So there are some exams that have labs today. We are in the process of bringing them back into more exams, and we'll continue to do that over time. But I will say that whether or not you actually get a lab on an exam really depends on whether or not we can deliver the best experience for you. So if we know because of the bandwidth that you're experiencing, you're not going to get a great lab experience, we're not going to deliver it for you. So we have an alternate non-lab experience that measures the same skills. It's equally as valid and reliable and so on. But we just want to make sure that we don't put you in a frustrating experience in an already highly stressful experience of an exam when the labs don't run properly. So you'll say, so which exams have labs? I really can't tell you because it's going to depend on your situation when you go to sit the exam. So my best advice is to, if it makes a difference to you whether there's going to be a lab, prepare as if there is going to be one, because that will only set you up for success, even if there's not one, because it gets you that hands-on experience that you really need in order to pass our exams.
Follow-up question for you, Liberty, as we got another question kind of related. Can you kind of explain the process for taking a certification exam? You know, it can be scary, as you mentioned. It's a lot of unknown, maybe not unknowns, but it could be pretty scary for somebody who's never done it before. So what is the process for taking a certification exam? What are some of the expectations and best ways to prepare, as someone is scheduled to go into taking an exam?
So I have a couple of pointers. First, if you can take a practice exam, it is a good idea because it does give you a feel for the difficulty of the questions themselves. And you do get a good feel for the different variety of question types that you'll see on the exam. Now, if you don't want to take a practice exam for whatever reason, that's totally fine. So how do you get information into what this exam experience is going to look like? Go to our website, go to Microsoft Learn, and there are some, when you go to the certifications page, there's a bunch of information about what to expect for our exams, including a page that's called exam duration and exam duration and question types, I think is what it's called. But in that, it'll tell you you're going to see between 40 and 60 questions. It'll tell you how much time you're going to have for the exam, how much time to set aside for the overall exam experience. And then we actually have tutorials or mini videos that walk you through each of our item types so that you can see exactly how you would interact with them on the exam. So I think just getting a good sense of what you're going to experience on the exam by going through and looking at those tutorials and really seeing the different item types that you might actually see when you sit the exam is a really great place to start. Other things you should know, if you're going to take the exam at home, do a system check on the computer that you intend to take the exam from. I'm very surprised how often people do system checks on different machines. But there are some challenges with like making sure that the locked browser is going to allow things to run and give you the right experience. So make sure you do that system check. And if you're going to a test center, just make sure you plan enough time to drive there or walk there or ride your bike there, however you're getting there, so you're not stressed out about finding a parking at the very last minute. You will have to show a government issued ID, both online and in a test center. These are proctored experiences. Once you've demonstrated your identity, they will unlock the exam, and then you will take the exam, and all the exams are timed. Now, if you have any reason why you may have a disability of some sort or anything like that, that might be a challenge for you taking the exam, you can also request an accommodation. And so all that information can be found on our website related to certification. So make sure you look into that and get familiar with those things so you can have the best experience possible.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Liberty. Yes, and I've taken an exam before, and it could be a little intimidating having not done it before. So I totally get it. Back to certification renewal, Sudarshan. So, it's been a fairly new function. We've got some questions around this. Do renewal assessments apply to all certifications, first of all? And then how many times is somebody able to actually take the assessment to renew? If they failed the first time, can they retake it? And is it completely free to renew or even to retake an renewal assessment?
Yeah, all great questions. And I think the first thing is the renewal is only applicable to role-based and specialty certifications. So if you have a fundamental certifications, then that certification wouldn't expire and renewals would not apply to that. So that's the first part of the question. And in terms of the assessment attempts, so as long as your certification hasn't expired and it's valid, you can attempt the renewals as many times as you'd like. There is a retake policy that would apply after the second attempt. So you take the first attempt of the renewal, and if you fail, you can take the second attempt right away. You don't have to wait. But after the second attempt, you have to wait 24 hours before you can reattempt or retake the assessment again. And so the second, third, fourth, all those attempts would require a 24-hour cool-off period. So make sure you're planning those as you think about your renewals, because if you're trying to do it the last week and if you need multiple attempts, then you may not be able to make it to the renewal on time if you plan it just a week before, right? And if you need multiple attempts. So to answer the question, reattempts or retakes, you can do as many times as you'd like, as long as you follow that retake policy of 24 hours after the second attempt. So that's kind of how the renewal works and the assessment retake policies work.
Thank you. We've got 2 minutes left, so I'm going to see if we can squeeze one more question in, either for Liberty or Sudarshan. If somebody is new to a role-based certification portfolio, they are evaluating which ones to pursue, but need help with that. Where should they go? What are some of the tips for figuring out which certification one should pursue? Sudarshan or Liberty? Either of you can help answer this.
So I would say if you're new to the solution area, start with the fundamentals. Find the right fundamentals, and that's probably a really good place to start. If you think your skills are beyond fundamentals, look at each of the certification pages and the skills that are measured, and and specifically kind of start just to be perfectly honest with yourself with each of those skills. Do I have these skills? And if not, where can I go and get them? And so those would be my 2 quick pieces of advice on where to start. Sudarshan, anything to add?
I would say if you're already in a job and you're an IT professional and you have the skills and you want to pursue the role-based certification, if you're looking to manage and operate solutions, then your associate level certifications would be your starting point. But if you're the more advanced level, designing and operating and designing and architecting solutions, then you would be looking at the expert level certifications, which would also require an associate prerequisite. So to Liberty's point, like start with fundamentals, and then depending on what you want to accomplish, whether you want to manage or operate solutions or whether you want to design and architect solutions, you would pick the appropriate role-based certification for that job role.
Great. Thank you so much, Liberty and Sudarshan. I have one more suggestion too. If you want a visual, we do have a certification poster with all of the different role-based certifications, including fundamentals. What are the required exams? Somebody will put the link in the chat for you if you are interested in looking at the certification poster. It does get updated monthly. We are out of time with 1 minute left. I just want to say thank you to everybody for joining us today in our session. We are looking for your feedback. It is really important to make sure that we can improve the experiences moving forward. So make sure to visit this AKA link to complete your evaluation. And one more slide here are just additional resources. Just a quick reminder, we do have an Ignite Cloud Skills Challenge that you can sign up and complete one challenge to actually earn a free certification exam. So it's a great opportunity to get started there. Microsoft Learn, continue your learning after Microsoft Ignite. And then for additional certification details in general, be sure to check out aka.ms/certification. Thanks everybody for joining us.
Oh, thanks everybody.
Thank you. Bye.